justice. Hello, and welcome to episode 11.
No, are we on 12 now?
No, I think part 2 was 10.
I think actually we're on 12.
We're on 12. Yeah, we did 10 and 11 last time.
Wow.
Yeah, we're experienced.
Yes. We are tried and tested podcasters. And we felt we thank the few of you that have watched all these episodes.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you, Mom. Sorry about the last couple.
Sorry, Bonnie.
You want
to, yeah. So the last ones we were talking about the Idaho library bill. And, I've had a lot of people stop and talk to me about that and what we said. And so far, everybody that has stopped and talked to me has agreed. I'm sure there are people that disagree with me, of course.
Sure.
I saw that we're making national news. I actually watched a John Oliver episode this morning, and he covered partly on what's happening in Idaho.
Just to be clear, the bill made national news. You and I didn't.
No.
The podcast did not.
No.
I was like, he's really getting into this bit.
I think we went from like 3 to 4 followers.
I was going to say
that was awesome.
I think we have some friends who listen to the podcast, so it might get us like all the way to Georgia. And
that's
we can go west to like California. So I mean, it's pretty big time.
Yeah.
But no, the bill has made some national attention. Let's get to that in a second. But first, I was about to take a sip, and we should talk about what we're drinking today.
Yeah, today we're tasting. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
We found this in our local liquor store today. It is Twisted Steel Moonshine. And I like that it was Huckleberry. Huckleberry is a very Idaho thing. We get a lot of huckleberries here.
Huckleberry milkshakes, Huckleberry.
You're having a hard time saying Huckleberry. How many drinks have you had there, Brian?
I haven't had it. This is my first drink. I just had a long week, but this Tuesday.
This was close to where I grew up. So I grew up in Homedale, Idaho. If you don't hear the banjos when I say that, this is the town, like 2 towns over. This is Parma, Idaho, Huckleberry Shine. So we're tasting some Huckleberry Moonshine. We thought it'd be stronger. It's 29% alcohol, which is still plenty strong. But we have mixed it today as almost a fruity mule.
A fruity mule.
Yeah. And,
which was my high school nickname.
Yeah. I believe that.
Mule.
Yeah. You know what my favorite thing about Homedale is?
What's that?
Aside from the fact that from hence comes Clan McCrae.
Of course, yeah.
Wow. I'm having a tough time talking.
You really are. This is going to be interesting.
This is going to be interesting. No, my favorite thing about Homedale is Chicken Dinner Road.
Well, that's not Homedale. That's outside in Caldwell and Marsing, but it's very close. But yeah, Chicken Dinner Road is a real name of a road outside of Homedale, and my uncle lived on it, and he hated the name. He hated having to tell everybody that he lives on Chicken Dinner Road. I've driven on Chicken Dinner Road a lot. It's very scenic.
I mean, here's the thing. Who doesn't like a good chicken dinner?
Right.
What was your uncle's problem?
A little bit of chicken fried, cold beer on it. All right, we won't get it.
We won't do that.
We're gonna get copyright strike.
Yeah. Just to go back to a couple episodes, Taylor Swift, our Lord and Savior, has released a new album.
Segue.
Yeah, there's never a segue. For Brian's mind, everything relates back to Taylor Swift. So we were on Chicken Dinner Road, and something triggered Taylor Swift. Please tell us the thought process between
I was just thinking because we talked about the library rail, which we're going to get back to in a second.
Yep.
And we talked about some other things. And I thought, in past episodes, we've discussed music and our favorites. And I had a pretty special event a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
In that Taylor Swift and Pearl Jam released brand new albums on the same day.
And then Taylor Swift was a double.
Yes, a surprise double album.
Wow.
It's amazing.
The fact that Brian's even made it back to work by this point is a miracle.
with the Pearl Jam album, insane. Their best work since the 90s.
Awesome.
It's great.
Haven't listened to it.
Matt Cameron on drums is playing like he's in Soundgarden again, and he's going. It's a great album. Kind of hate when like bands you love kind of get on in the ears and they start putting out shittier albums, but that happens.
Yeah.
But they swung the pendulum back with this one. It's great.
I haven't listened to any of that new music other than when I'm in your car and you've got it going, but I have not sat and. Sorry, Brian, not Bonnie. Bonnie would agree with me. That music's.
If you say sorry, Brian, to me, does that mean Bonnie has to say fuck you, Steve?
Yes. Sorry, Bonnie.
I would pay Bonnie a lot of money.
Never happened. Bonnie,
a lot of money.
Bonnie would never lower herself to that.
That's true.
How
She's
dare
better
you?
than that. She taught me better than this. Taylor Swift's album, with most Taylor Swift albums, with the exception of one, I needed some time for it to grow on me.
Has it?
And it has. I'm probably 12 to 15 complete listens now.
of each album?
Yeah.
Each double album?
No, well, yeah, like 12 to 15 times through the double album.
Okay, so that double album's 2 hours?
Yeah.
So you've spent 24 to 30 hours listening to Taylor Swift in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Pearl Jam. In addition to those.
In addition to that. Yeah, that's not and Pearl Jam inside of that.
I was trying to make it
24 to 30 hours. No, you just added. So
Yeah.
now you're 48 hours-ish of listening to these new records.
Yes.
Full time.
Yeah. It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Being this awesome.
A Swiftie.
A Swiftie.
Is there a term for people who are both into Pearl Jam and Taylor Swift?
Ooh.
You come up with it.
I'm thinking about it.
That's your
I've got a
assignment
brain
for next
baby
time.
going.
Okay.
Anyway, both great albums. Listen to them. I'm excited for upcoming because I've got some other shows and stuff. We've done some things, but we can talk about that maybe on the next episode.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's get back to the library bill because I was very, very critical of one of our local representatives.
You were.
I was also a little tipsy, so I may have been a little more bold in my assertions, but
Sure.
I stand by the premise of those. But I also sent a similarly worded email, not those words, but very strong opinions to that representative to let him know that I was disappointed in it. And he emailed me back.
And it wasn't just a blanket email back this time.
And he, in fact, I had called him out for that blanket email in the email I sent to him.
All right.
And he addressed that, and I get it. His response to that was that they're just overwhelmed with emails when especially high profile bills like this come up. And so it's not unusual for legislatures to use a canned response like that.
Sure.
So I'll forgive him on that. Although the others that I emailed about it took time to sit down and write me a thoughtful response, which I appreciated, which will make me likely vote for them in the future, despite maybe other political differences.
Okay.
The other idea that he sent back was that this bill is just about protecting the children, that we needed to do something to protect children from being exposed to that. And he had some other thoughts about libraries in general. And to his credit, he said, let's sit down and chat about it. To which I replied, yes, I'd love to sit down and chat about it. As a matter of fact, my business partner, Steve McCrae, and I have a podcast where you could come and join us.
So he now joins
the position.
He now joins the list.
The list
of Taylor Swift and Eddie Vedder and
All of Pearl Jam.
not Elon Musk.
Not Elon Musk.
That's bullshit.
Marissa Tomei.
Was she on the list? I don't remember that.
Yeah. And Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And now Representative Lance Clow from Idaho.
You joined some fine company there, Lance.
He did. And he's invited on the podcast. We would be respectful if he came on.
Absolutely. I wasn't terribly respectful in the last episode. I'll admit to that.
Yeah.
I was angry. And, I said what I said, and I believe in what I said. I probably could have. Yeah, perturbed, maybe a little bit miffed.
Yeah, miffed is right. But I want to break down what I see as the process, because tell me what you think of this, because I think this is important. Oftentimes, we're lawyers, we're just dealing with the laws that are written. And here there's a law was just written that we wholeheartedly disagree with, and we're reaching out past the judicial branch that we normally deal in into the legislative branch. And here you've done that. And the couple of things that give me some concerns, or I have some concerns, and I also have some hope. The hope comes from the fact that he's actually reading them enough to respond. Right. And I think that's a valid process. And to that end, I would encourage any listener and any individual ever that has a strong opinion about a bill, reach out to your representative. It's critical.
It's critical, and it tells you, who you're really dealing with the type of response you get. But even if you disagree with me, if you send me a thoughtful response,
yes. But that's the point. That's the point that gives me some concern, is that in the initial reaching out to your representative, the answer that we now have is we are so busy that I didn't have time to read that on these high profile bills. Pieces. But that sucks, because it's those that need looked at the closest, and it feels like they just get overwhelmed and go, okay, let's type up a generic response to send out. Now, you would have more information on this than I would, because I've never worked in the legislative process, and you have. And tell me how it works.
Well, and that's one thing I mentioned to Representative Clow was, I get it. Like, you get overwhelmed with correspondence. But yeah, I worked in the U.S. Senate with Larry Craig, Senator Craig, a longtime Idaho senator, Republican, who hired me despite my political leanings. And I felt like we did some good work. But it's, they start working on these higher profile pieces that come in, and all of a sudden they're getting overwhelmed with phone calls from, groups like the Idaho Sheep Herders Association or Idaho Dairymen or whatever, all these special interest groups. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
There are some that
there are so many special interest groups that are truly special interests. They serve certain groups of people that get together to say, hey, this is important to us.
The American Bar Association would be one that we would, or the Idaho State Bar,
or the Idaho Trial Lawyers Association.
Yeah, getting smaller down that attorney sort of group area.
Anyway, but it's, they start getting these calls from people that they're well connected with. Then it makes the news, and the talking heads go after bills, and then everybody gets riled up and starts flooding their representatives with emails and calls of stuff they've heard from talk shows, that sort of thing.
So would you encourage people to write your representative then?
Yes.
Because so it sounds like even if, there's a bill out there I disagree with or was just enacted, and I want to voice my concern or disdain for what they did. Writing them, it sounds like, in the very least, I might be part of the group that generates the response that might make the news then, and might gain traction in that manner. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. And here's the kind of shady underbelly of it. And why the reason I didn't hesitate at all is because you might get a meaningful response. You might start a good conversation if it's something that you end up disagreeing on, or they might surprise you, Greg Lanting, with their positions on things that make someone like me go, I respect him a whole lot more. And that's great. But the shady underbelly of it is that oftentimes they don't care what you say in your message or your voicemail or whatever it is. They just want to check the box. Do I vote yes or no on this bill? And so they'll mark how many calls or contacts they get that say, I want you to support this or I want to vote against it. They're not even looking at the substance
the reason.
of
Yeah.
it's just yes or no.
So,
in fact, some of them were, and I think this was maybe the last attempt at the library bill, not this last session, but the one before.
Right. That got shot down.
Yeah, it got shut down. And in the governor's office, when it was coming to his desk, had a message that just said, press 1 if you want me to sign this bill, press 2 if you want me to veto it. And he took those and
he took those numbers into consideration.
I don't think it was like a vote for everybody who called in, but I think, nobody was allowed to voice reasons. It was just press 1 or press 2. And that's not great.
Right. Theoretically, you could get
robocallers.
Yeah. Or even just a huge, well, could you get multiple people calling in multiple times?
Possibly. Yeah.
Sure. And we've seen it. There are people that are willing to do that. So it's just an interesting perspective because I live and breathe in the judicial world. I'm in court all the time, and I don't go to, and there are attorneys that do regularly go and participate in the legislative process. I don't do that. And so for me, all of it is, I rely on the special interest groups that I'm a part of. The Idaho Trial Lawyers Association, or the Idaho, what's called IDACTL, the Idaho Criminal Defense Bar.
Right.
And they will come to me and say, hey, what do you think of this? And I'll give a little bit of input, and maybe that goes up. But I don't actively do it. And I'm not as active as you are. So it's interesting from across our office to see what's happening on a bill that I hate. And maybe I should be more involved.
I mean, it's easy to get disenfranchised, but
sure,
that's probably a whole nother topic for another episode.
I also think the internet has ruined me because I'm so used to everybody getting online and just spewing their opinion into the ethos and it getting nowhere, and it bugs me and it drives me crazy, and I feel like social media, Facebook, and all of this are just ruining us, that I'm now jaded against going and writing an email to my elected representative. Zach's nodding with me over here. He feels the same way.
No, it's easy.
And that's what sucks is regular life. I feel like if I post something on Facebook and all the people that voice their opinion drive me crazy at times.
Yeah.
And so, but that's part of the process. So I don't know.
I think that's part of the desired outcome for people.
It's a
too
battle
tired,
of
or you think it's too useless to do it that you don't do it.
And so I'm now a victim of my own opinions. Damn it.
Get capitalism.
We all are, Steve. We're all victims of your own opinions.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. I do love how I said that's a topic probably for its own complete episode, and then you went on a couple minute talk about it, which was great. But you said something that
we're 20 minutes.
For a good 20 minutes was that the internet is kind of ruined it for me, right? The internet does have some benefits, though. Do you know what those are, Steve?
What are they?
Recipes. That's our segue. That's our segue.
What a wonderful segue.
You were just complaining how I didn't give you segues. I just gave you the most glorious segue of all time.
You know who should be locked up? The people that write an entire life story before giving the recipe.
No, the people that should be locked up. Yeah, that's exactly right. When I look up a recipe and they don't have the jump to recipe button at the very top, and I have to look through the damn photos of people making it.
I don't care about your grandma, Janine.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm just trying to make some cobbler.
All right. I recognize that was... I recognize that was not the smoothest of transitions, but we are here today not to talk about politics, not even so much the law, although we've got some law in there.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about food. Do you know?
Here's how we come up with some podcast topic, Zach, is we go, hey, what do you want to talk about today? And we have a couple ideas, and then Brian goes, well, we talked about music. Why don't we talk about food? And I go, all right.
What are you talking about? We got a whole writer's room. We got a
a research team.
You can't see it. It's off camera, but we have a whole whiteboard.
We got Yeah,
full of ideas.
But
whole basement
wasn't-
full of interns
but it
fact
wasn't-
checking us.
It wasn't just that. Like I started sitting and thinking, going, what does food have to do with the law? And then all of a sudden,
We had stories.
yeah, it's stories. And I went, you know what? It's such an interesting thing. I mean, for example, right now, I have a client that's sitting in jail and he wants to sue the jail because his caloric intake is about 600 calories a day.
Oh, wow.
And he has tried, I'm not going to mention his name or the jail. He has tried everything to get more calories. He has declared himself Jewish to get a
Kosher meal.
Wow.
and that has helped. But now he finds himself in the position of the kosher meal. He eats the exact same thing every day. And just the politics behind food in the jail is one thing. I mean, and that's a big part of my life with when I'm dealing with clients that are in a facility
Yeah.
because they don't get good food.
No.
It's very bad. So that's one side of how I connected it, and I've got some fun
some more stories.
Yeah,
But it's safe to say that without food and sort of an enjoyment of food, cooking, that sort of thing, Hilverta McCrave wouldn't have happened. And
Absolutely.
if that doesn't happen, the I Fought the Law podcast doesn't happen.
I would
That's
never
right.
have been born.
Yeah.
you would have had no reason to be born, Zach.
Back to the Future.
Yeah. I
me.
was going to say Marty McFly.
No, so it's time to tell the origin story of Brian and Steve getting to know one another.
As mentioned on previous podcasts, we were both members of a fairly prevalent in this area, especially high demand religion.
Yeah,
And
he had to throw in high demand.
I didn't have to. I chose to.
High demand and in stock.
Brian and I were going to church together, and it was common for me. They didn't trust me with a lot in this church, but they trusted me to watch Brian's kids.
Just his.
And a
It
couple
was
others.
just mine because I was the old guy going back to school.
That's exactly right. So it was a rare occasion that I was not watching his kids, and I went over and there was a class, and who was the teacher but Brian James Hilverta?
This guy.
What were you teaching?
Well, that's a good question, Zach. He was teaching certain gospel principles, but he was relaying them. I could not tell you what the principle was. You're going to have to fill that in.
I have no idea.
His story, he started and he went around and said, all right, if you're going to cook a steak, and he's teaching all men, and every guy wants to get this right. Every guy wants to know how to cook the steak the best. And he asked, what's the most important step of cooking a steak? And most guys were yelling, seasoning or the heat's just right or whatever. And Brian shooting them down. And I got it right. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Brian's like, that's important. That's important. And I said, you got to let the steak rest.
And I went,
And Brian goes, that's it. Because so after you cook a steak, you got to let it rest so that all the juices inside settle out.
gives the tummy some meat to relax before you enjoy it,
man knows his law.
I was like, that guy has handled his fair share of meat.
law practice.
Nice. Yes, I have. And so afterwards, it was probably a day or two later, we were down at law school, and I was like, hey, steak guy.
And I was like, rest guy.
Yeah. And we were like, okay. And so we started talking, and we're like, hey, let's get together. And we found out we both love to cook. We both regularly watched the Food Network back then.
Yeah.
And Brian, who was the gal on the Food Network you had a big crush on?
Oh, Giada de Laurentiis.
Oh my gosh. He was so into Giada.
Parmigiano Reggiano.
Yeah, that was it. And so we decided we'd get together and cook. We got our families together, and we did surf and turf.
Surf and turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did a tri-tip, and Brian did a halibut with some sauce and a pear and Parmesan salad. I remember this meal well.
Yeah.
It was good.
I remember that salad. That was good.
This is not a good day to have just eaten granola bars for lunch.
Is that it, man? We should have
But
brought
at
you
least
in
you're
something.
drinking on top of that.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so after that, we became foodies, and we regularly cooked and ate. And then about a year later,
Yeah.
so we
Year
started
and a half.
hanging out. I had randomly put in for this competition in law school. my second year, which is around the time that Brian and I met. And I went to DC and presented at this conference, actually took second place, won some money. I came back, and the next year I was telling everybody, hey, it's really easy to get into this conference and you get a free trip to DC. And Brian was the only one to do it with me.
Seriously, like we talk about it now like we did some like really important research or something.
It sounded like it was really awesome there.
Mine was like a 2-paragraph email about how maybe you shouldn't have smoking in apartment complexes where everybody has to.
They were like, accepted. You're coming to DC. Come to DC. And they flew us out. They put us up in a nice hotel. And I got the benefit because Brian had worked for Senator Craig, that he became my tour guide and we went around DC.
That's right. And they also gave us a food and alcohol stipend, but you and I didn't drink at the time.
That's right.
So we could put all of our money towards food and no alcohol. So we went to, we asked the concierge at the hotel, what's good? This was before the days of Yelp being very popular.
I don't know why I thought you just walked up. What's good?
What's good? What's good? What's good, concierge?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
you guys were
that was a real
said,
thing, man.
have you tried the prime rib around the corner? And we're like, no. And he's like, you'll need to have, jacket, tie on. It's that kind of place, but it's really good if you, got money in. And what's my number one rule about eating at new restaurants?
I don't know.
If they have a dish that's named after the name of the restaurant, that's what you eat.
Yeah.
So what did we get at the prime rib?
We got prime rib.
We got
like 4-inch thick, cut with a fork prime rib. That was the best prime rib of my life.
So
at McDonald's, did you just get everything the first time you went in there?
Everything with Mick.
Everything Mick.
Brian had a Mick in it, and I was like, I guess I got to try that.
That's right.
These McFries are McDelicious.
Nice.
Are you either of you horseradish people?
Oh, I'm a horseradish guy. Yeah.
Good. No, you got to have horseradish.
I'm alone in my life with. It's just very few people that I know that actually like horseradish, and they think I'm crazy.
Let's go get some prime ribs.
What's the classification of horseradish? Is it a tuber? I know it's a root.
Oh, I think it's some kind of sinus destroyer.
No, but it's similar to like
I think it's just a root
ginger or whatever.
I think it is a root.
Is it a root vegetable?
Yeah, I would assume it's like carrot. I don't know.
I don't know either. We should find out.
Yeah.
Hey, that's me. It's a perennial plant it's a root vegetable, cultivated and used worldwide.
Like yeah. Well, there you go. So, but Brian and I ate the best prime rib of our life. And eventually we kept on the food tradition. In fact, we were up in Coeur d'Alene eating stuffed burgers when we decided that we were going to partner up.
Yeah.
I had been running my own practice, and we were up there for a legal training, but decided to eat some fine burgers and
join forces.
Yeah, join forces, and that's.
I remember mine had a cream cheese, jalapeno bacon.
So did mine.
So what I'm hearing is we need one of these episodes to be in a kitchen, and we need to be cooking something.
Oh, I'm down.
You do it down.
Oh yeah. Well, my wife owns a restaurant not 100 feet from here.
That works.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other
with
thing.
With the kitchen that faces outwards.
I eventually married a very experienced chef who's worked in extremely high-end restaurants and has upped my game for cooking. And so
the food
we need to have like a chop challenge. I want to see who wins between me and Brian.
That would be amazing.
Brian
I would love that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You can be the judge. Oh, that would be awesome. That would be fun.
Yeah. So we've always enjoyed food. We very frequently exchange things that we've cooked or tell each other about them. Or if we've tried a new restaurant, if we have to go on a work trip or anything else together, we usually find nice places to eat.
What do you think most guys, I'm sitting and thinking about the conversations that you and I have had about food, and the way we talk about food, and especially the stuff we've prepared, is nearly pornographic. What do you think most guys talk about that? Because I really don't know that use that same tone outside of, I don't know, porn.
I don't know.
I'm gonna hand you all the mixers.
Thanks. I am making
fantasy football or something, but I don't.
Maybe football.
Sports.
Kind of a reach though.
Some guys like hunting, fishing, being in the outdoors.
Yeah. And for us, it's food. Got it.
For us, it's food.
Yeah, get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Is there
Brian
like a type of food that you don't agree on?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I have not met a food that I don't like.
You're on the same page about everything.
Pretty much everything, yeah. The only thing I hesitate on occasionally is some shellfish, just because of bad past experiences.
And I'm allergic to some, so
like mussels. I have a hard time with, but for the most part.
No, let me tell you what drives my wife absolutely crazy when it comes to food. Is she and I have eaten at like high-end Michelin star restaurants and get dressed up, and we'll go out. Plug for our town, we just got a brand new steakhouse that's amazing. It's called the Turf Club, and they took an old 1940s restaurant and renovated it to what it was back in the 1940s. Just fantastic.
Yeah. Excellent work.
Oh my gosh. I'm so proud of the people that put it together. We know them. And my wife and I have been a couple of times, and just fantastic. But this is what drives her crazy is in the same day that I would eat that, I would also go to a gas station that I know I like their burritos, and we'll get a burrito gas station, and it's
like the microwave ones that you, or like
I have no problem eating microwavable gas station food.
The ones that has XXL on fire and like on the logo.
No, here's the ultimate is we had gotten back from a trip, and Kathy, my wife, my son Rogan, and I were just super hungry. We knew we didn't have any food at the house. We were driving back from Salt Lake because we had to land, and driving up, we were like, let's just go to the gas station, get some food. Like, I don't care what it is. And I went up, and they had 2 hot dogs in the little roller thing, and I was like, score. I'm eating hot dogs, and they were getting like bagged stuff. And so I get these 2 hot dogs together. I go up front, and the gal is like, oh, honey, I'm going to give you those for free. And my wife and son were like, oh, nasty. I was like, score, free hot dogs. And to them, they were like, no, they were giving them to you to avoid liability from what was about to happen. And for me, I just scored 2 free hot dogs. That's the kind of guy, when I say no, I will eat any food, pretty much anything, but I'll go anything from gas station to Michelin star, man.
Wow. Yeah. You just got a dumpster gut ready for anything.
I do. They were like, oh, just wait till that hits. I slept like a baby. I have trained this belly, man.
So I was trying to think today when in the, 3.5 minutes before starting this podcast, wherein we decided we were going to talk about food, is do I have any like food related legal stories? And I don't really. You have some that are better than mine. We'll get to those. But I have some of the very first cases I worked on and filed as a lawyer were dairy cases, working with, a whole lot of milk and milk products.
A whole lot of milk.
And, things like that. Not terribly exciting in terms of food. Yeah. I do currently have one food-related case, and it's filed in public record, so I think I'm fine mentioning it. And I love this so much that I filed a lawsuit on behalf of the Fartless company.
The what?
The Fartless factory.
Oh, yeah. The Fartless beans.
Fartless? Yes. We have
like
a local,
without fart?
Without fart. Wow. Fartless. We have a business locally in our valley that this gentleman had a farmer had grown some beans and had figured out a way to treat them to make you fart less.
Wow.
And that's what he called his company, and it's grown into various things. Check them out on the internet. And some, if you're local, they're in a lot of shops. But pick out some, they've got like cornbread mixes and chili mixes and all those things now in the Fartless. But somebody ran into the Fartless building and then tried to avoid paying for it. So even where I have food, it's not that exciting.
My favorite story of yours with food is the class action lawsuit you filed against an arena in relation to the serving of food or beverage.
I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I was thinking of cases.
That was a big one. You had a class action lawsuit.
I had a class action lawsuit that was featured on international news, and I'm not joking. But yeah, there was a local arena that sold beer at its hockey games and other events. But this was particular to a hockey event or hockey game, wherein the regular and the large cups held virtually the same amount of liquid in it.
That's right.
You could take the large and pour it up to the very top of the regular and go back and forth, and it filled up the same cups, except they were charging $12 instead of $8 for the large. And so we found out about this. We were contacted by somebody, and so we filed a lawsuit. And a $4 con job usually would not make a great lawsuit, except in this circumstance, they're doing it to thousands and thousands of
Tens
people.
of thousands.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands over the course of all their events. And so we filed a lawsuit about that, a class action on behalf of anybody who had bought. That was the Idaho coming out in me.
That was Idaho, man.
Yeah. Bought the
Gonna go down
large
the creek
beer.
where it bought some
Where
beer.
I'm fixing.
It bothers me that
more
it
south.
didn't-
That's my wife coming out.
True.
It bothers me that it didn't register for a second. I just accepted it.
Yeah, it was like totally normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came to
I don't like
the
that.
tip of my tongue very quickly. It's just botten.
There it is.
I think that's how I pled it in the lawsuit. These fans
Your
bought
Honor, these
large
fans
beers.
had bought lots of
These
beers.
guys bought it and they poured it into each.
Yeah.
And same.
So what happened with it?
You know what? I filed it at my old firm before you and I became
That's right.
partners. I left before it was resolved. But I am given to believe that there was some sort of resolution between the arena and the named plaintiffs in the class. Likely, well, I have no idea what it is. It's confidential.
Okay.
But I made. It was a story about beer and hockey, and so like the Canadian networks got all over the lawsuit once it got out. So there were calls from like
Wow.
the CSN and some of those other channels up there about this, and then it kind of other mostly hockey friendly companies or countries were reaching out or featuring it on stories.
That's awesome.
I
So
imagine
like,
they wouldn't mess around with that, especially hockey
Hockey
Yeah,
beer.
right.
enthusiasts.
yeah, right.
You
Anyway.
screw with beer at a hockey game, you might as well be screwing with a hockey game itself.
The sport that it is accepted to fist fight in.
That's right.
You decided to screw people over on beer.
On beer.
Yeah, I
Genius.
think you also shared the story of the Mountain Dew bottle being pulled
Oh,
out.
yeah,
of the
yeah,
fire
we
that
had
was
that one.
amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
See, all of mine come from inmates who are sitting in jails and don't get enough food.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one gentleman who had sat for a while, and he was super nervous. He finally wanted to essentially confess what he had done because it raised another defense. And I talked jail staff, and I will never tell what facility or who these individuals are because I don't want anybody to get in trouble, because bringing food to an inmate is contraband. I mean, think about it. I could hide a razor blade inside of a hot dog or hamburger. And of course I'd never do that. But I talked and I got permission from one jail staff to bring my client McDonald's breakfast. And him being able to sit down and just eat McDonald's breakfast calmed him down, set the stage to where he could talk to me freely. And I was showing him, I'm in no rush. Like, I'm here for you, whatever it takes. And so we ended up having a long breakfast. And I spent probably $20 at McDonald's, but he was thrilled. And he ended up having to serve some time in prison. So it was kind of his final meal. But my favorite, and you know my favorite story, just happened a short time ago.
Yes.
Again, I don't want to limit anything down. It was at a local jail. I not only do criminal work, but I also do what's called post-conviction work. And that is where somebody has been in jail for a while and thinks that something happened in their case that was screwed up and should give them the right to reopen their case. So this gentleman got me appointed as their attorney on post-conviction, and he was convicted of second-degree murder. And so I was looking over his case. I came up with a theory that I won't get into. Filed it, got through the first round of challenges. The judge allowed me to proceed forward, and we were about a week away from trial on his post-conviction, trying to reopen his case. And something happened in our case that made it very difficult for us to proceed to trial and was going to kill his case, essentially. I called up the local prosecutor and negotiated the case after talking with my client, and he authorized it and got the prosecutor to agree to knock a certain number of years off his sentence. My client was happy with that result, but he was also disappointed that the thing that had screwed up our case had happened, and he was sort of in between this idea of should we still take it to trial, which I think would have been difficult. It still potentially could have won, or take this resolution that saved him a number of years off of his life. So he previously, when I went and met with him in the prison, when I go into a prison, they bring me out with like friends and family, and they have this like wall of vending machines. And he came out, and I just said, hey, and I always do this. I said, hey, whatever you want, man, just tell me what you want. And he bought 3 microwavable hamburgers. And he wolfed those down in about 30 seconds when I met with him in the prison. And I knew he loved just to eat. And so we're now sitting over, I've got the paperwork, and I wanted to see if I could somehow hook him up. And so I talked to the staff at the jail and got authorization to bring him a steak. Oof. So this is in a town away from where I live. I didn't know like where to get a steak. I talked to some people. They told me to go to this restaurant, and I ordered him a steak, 24-ounce ribeye with all the fixings, salad,
rolls.
Yeah, rolls, salad, but also got him a big old pile of fries. And then I was ordering my lunch because it was right around lunchtime. So I ordered myself the steak sandwich, not knowing what it was. I was like, whatever. I ordered them both medium rare. We show up to meet, and jail staff lets me
to meet.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, nice. So jail staff lets me take him into this kind of secluded room so nobody else, none of the other inmates could see. And he comes in, and I open up the steak for him. This guy has been sitting for 9 years and has eaten only facility food for 9 years. He told me that in that 9 years, the only fresh meat he ever had was he got 1 ounce of brisket on a 4th of July when they had randomly housed him in Texas. And so he had not had like real meat in 9 years or anything quality. And so I open up this steak in front of him with all the potatoes and the salad, and he's in chains, mind you. And I'm going, all right, let me cut it up for you. He goes, don't worry about it. And he like hikes up the chains as much as he can. This is what I've been training for. And he grabs this thing T-Rex style, and he just starts eating. And I'm talking, I'd gotten him this big thing of A1. He's dunking it in the A1. I mean, it was a unpleasant display, let's just say. But he wolfs down the steak. I'm talking dripping all down his arms. He then turns to the fries, eats all of the fries, turns to the steak, eats it. If I could describe his face, I mean, the pure elation in his face as he ate a thick cut tomato, because he hasn't had fresh vegetables either.
Right.
So he eats his vegetable, and it's 5 minutes. It's done. He then turns to me, and mind you, I'm going through documents with him and just watching him eat the steak, and we're done. He signs it. We're kind of celebrating that we got him resolution, and I open up mine because I'm like, I'll eat too. And as I open it up, I discover the steak sandwich is just a piece of bread with another complete steak on top.
Not even chopped up or anything.
No, it's like sliced.
It's sliced, but it's the whole steak.
It's a whole steak just on a piece of sourdough bread. And I'm like, oh. So I'm looking at it going, how am I going to eat this? There's not like a bun. And as I'm looking at it, I look up, and he has the look of my chocolate lab dog in his eyes of like, oh, more food. And I looked at him, and I was like, hey, do you want this too? And he's like, no, man, I can't do that. I can't do that. You've been so good to me. And I'm like, I told him, I said, oh, I'm a free man.
Yeah. You can pick another one up on your way home.
Yeah. And I was like, this is on me. Have at it. So I slid the other steak over to him, and the same thing. That man ended up eating, by my count, 36 ounces of steak. Wow. Probably 3 pounds of fries, 2 salads, multiple rolls. and he was in absolute heaven.
That's
I was
awesome.
Glad I wasn't his cellmate that night.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's my ultimate food story. Most of mine, I've been able to get certain inmates food. It's difficult, and some facilities are an absolute no, and I understand that and respect it. But that's where my getting along with certain facilities has landed me. So I've been able to do it.
I have one more very short, kind of funny food story.
Yeah.
But where are we at on time?
We are at 45 minutes.
This will be great. I'll tell this story and we'll end it.
What? Perfect.
And we'll be like,
You tell. I'm gonna.
thanks for joining us. And send us recipes and that sort of thing if you want us to try something. We should do a series of shows on viewer submitted recipes, and your mom and my mom can send us the recipes they want us to make, and we can do it.
Yes.
Because those are our two viewers.
We'll start with a southern one. We'll call it I Fought the Slaw.
Oh, Zach
Spoke Brian's
from
love
Focus
language.
Films in Twin Falls, Idaho, coming in hot with the best pun of the day. No, this one goes way back. I was a wee bitty baby lawyer. And the first case I ever went to trial on, it was a medical malpractice case. Calling myself a baby lawyer probably wasn't the best because it was a baby that was born and the doctor had let the labor go on for way too long, despite signs of the baby being hypoxic and all sorts of things. And she ended up being born with cerebral palsy. I didn't mean to bring this down. I was just going to say we went to trial.
Why'd you have to bring up the facts
It's
of the
because I
case?
said baby lawyer, Brian.
You heard your own pun in your head and you had to explain it.
I had to
That's
explain
how
it.
your brain works. Well, on that,
Thank you,
tell your very
ADHD.
funny story now about this
but
tragedy.
it was in a federal court. They kept different hours than state court trials. We basically went straight through, no lunch break. Like we had 2 15-minute breaks throughout the 8 to 5 schedule. Like that was it. And so in those like couple of 15-minute breaks, we had snacks. We had a whole room set aside for us. This was like a 3-week trial. And so we had our room and we had a bunch of snacks in it. One of those snacks was a box of wheat thins. And so we're in there, we're on a break. It's in the middle of questioning a pretty significant witness, an expert talking about the problems with everything. And we're all starving. There was 3 of us working on the case, and 2 of us were me and the other guy about my age, a little older. And then this very experienced, a lot of people call the best civil trial lawyer in the state.
He's incredible.
He's incredible. Was kind of looking at his notes because he was questioning this witness. And all of a sudden he just looks up from his pad and he's writing, because my buddy and I, or my coworker, my colleague, he's a friend, we were eating the wheat thins and he just stares at us. And we were crunching, apparently. We didn't realize that it was so offensive. Get the fuck out of here. And we're like, what? If you're going to eat those damn crackers, get the fuck out of here. And we're like, I'm going to leave the crackers, but I'm still leaving.
Was this in the middle of court?
No, it was we had a room set aside, and we had those snack. The bailiffs had given us permission to sneak in some food, so we had something to eat.
Oh, that's
on those
perfect.
couple of breaks. But yeah, Ken told both Jeremy and I to get the fuck out of there because we were eating with wheat thins, and I think we've called him on it a couple times. He denies it, but it absolutely happened. And I love the man to death. I would take a bullet for him, but wheat thins got me in trouble as a baby lawyer. So.
I never thought about that. Is there ever a point in court where it's just like ungodly silent and you can hear everything?
Yeah, sometimes you do it on purpose.
Really?
Yeah, if you so for
Pause
example,
for dramatic effect.
Yeah, pause for dramatic effect. Or sometimes if you have a witness to say this happened for 2 minutes, you say let's experience 2 minutes, and you just sit for 2 minutes. It's really powerful. Yeah,
That'd be the worst time to have like bubble gut.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to rip one. Well, in all honesty, viewers, send us your recipes.
Yeah.
We'll cook something.
If you send a recipe, I will cook it and bring it in here and eat it for the first time on this show.
I don't know why this came in my head, but I was like, we'll cook something. I ain't afraid of no ghost. And how my brain got to Ghostbusters, I don't even know. But
You're 2 drinks in.
Well,
so
that's true.
that's probably contributing.
I've come around on the Twisted Still Moonshine Huckleberry Shine.
It's getting better the more I drink.
Ironically,
It's amazing.
That's pretty common with alcohol.
Ironically, your pronunciation got better the more drinks you had.
Right?
There it is.
I just needed a little more Idaho in me so I could say Botan. All right, friends. We'll see you on the next episode. And we'll be talking about some really important stuff that we've researched and planned for the 2 to 3 minutes before we start recording.
Oh, yeah.
Sure we will. Bye, all.